Hello and welcome to the This Awesome Life podcast, a collection of stories that point to purpose. I'm Brandon and I have an awesome life, but that's not special because you do too. In every episode of This Awesome Life, we'll talk to a friend, we'll listen to their story, and we'll hear the moments in which God has shown up in their life and pointed them forward in their calling. Today, we're talking to my friend, Tara Banks. Tara is the author of Waiting on Wonders. It's a 40-day devotional that's written to help readers recognize God's voice in the normal moments of their lives. Today, Tara and I talk about life, we talk about gardening, and we talk about how one painful season can lead us to a more fruitful one if we will allow God to prune away the old and make room for the new. So let's dive in, explore some stories, and celebrate this awesome life. Well, hey everyone, like I said, I am here with my good friend, Tara Banks. I'm super excited about today's conversation. Tara, just so excited about what you've got going on and the things that I've seen and read in your book. It's been amazing, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about who you are and what are some exciting things in your life right now?
Yeah, thanks so much. I appreciate you having me on. I'm super excited to chat with you and just catch up with you. We were doing that ahead of the recording and that was just loads of fun. So Great to be with you today. Thanks so much. So I just a little bit about me. I'm a wife to my sweet husband, Greg, and a mom to two fantastic boys, Ethan and Brody. My son just got married. I can't believe it. And his beautiful wife, Lydia, they live in Florida. And then Brody is driving and, in the middle of high school and all that good stuff. So
that's crazy.
But outside of being wife and mama, I am most recently a writer, which has been just a really cool thing to dive into in these last couple of years. But have just put out a new book, Waiting on Wonders, that released on March 1st of this year. So that has been really incredible. And then on top of that, I still get to lead worship at Seacoast Church on the weekends, which I just adore, and get to mentor worship leaders and worship pastors. And my good friend Nate Davis and I just also started a consulting business called the Worship Dept, where we come alongside churches and help them with their systems and processes and their personal development, team development, and then the ways that they can make their worship ministry stronger. So I've got my hands in a ton of stuff right now, but it's a load of fun.
That's awesome. That's so cool. I like that you said most recently an author.
Most recently an author.
Yeah, I love it. So it's like, that's not something that you grew up being like, oh, I'm going to write a book one day.
No.
Like the hard pass. Absolutely
no.
not.
I don't even think that I really enjoyed any English class I was ever in, to be honest.
Oh my gosh.
No offense to any of my
I know. I just shared with you earlier that I just reconnected with my English teacher on Facebook. So I hope she's, I don't feel that way, Miss Murphy. I love you.
Oh goodness. So I never thought that this would be something that I'd be diving into, for sure. That's
cool. Well, I'm into the book now. It's like a 40-day devotional, and I just finished week 3 today, and I love it. It's been really life-giving for me. It's been a way to kind of like slow down. Like my life is very fast-paced. I'm with you. I've got my hand in a lot of things. I've got kids that are running in all different directions, and it's easy for me to start going really fast and neglect the moments that I need to wait for what God's trying to tell me and what he's trying to do in my life. So I really do appreciate your writing and the way that you've come from it or come at it of just like, hey, take a minute, pause, and listen to what God's saying. And honestly, there's a lot of things in there that you and I kind of like have in common. On the personal story side of things, I've read some things. I'm like, oh, yep, I know the feeling there. I know what that's like. Not with any of the gardening stuff. I am a very, very efficient killer of plants, unfortunately. But on some of the other things, I'm like, oh, I totally identify with this. But I also love how much you talk about just kind of purpose, and the way that I see you finding that purpose is through these kind of like random moments with the Lord. And man, I think that our world, we look for burning bushes.
Yes.
And we want God to show up with like flashing neons that
Yes.
say, this is what you're supposed to do. And this is the city that you're supposed to do it in. And these are the people that you're supposed to work for. And here's the salary and the benefits package. But I think that God is way more consistent in the random little whispers. And I love that about your book. It's very apparent that I'm not alone in feeling that way. So
Not at all. Not at
yeah.
all.
So I'd love to know, like, is there a moment in your life that really sticks out where you heard God whisper more about who Tara Banks was created to be, and tell us that story and tell us how it shaped, some of what you were doing going forward.
Yeah. So I actually wrote this story in the book because it's such a pivotal moment in my life. And I feel like that it was one of the very first times where I remember hearing the Lord's voice so clearly in a normal moment. Just backing up a bit, being in church world, I know the path to God's presence on a platform on the weekends or when I'm worshiping with him in my car.
Yeah.
Right? I know that path to his presence.
Right.
But what does that look like? And what I always say is, what does that look like on a Tuesday? Like, what does the path to God's presence just look like in a normal moment? And so the story that I tell about finding God in a normal moment in the book is a story about a plumeria tree. So we are lovers of all things Hawaii, have had the opportunity to go a couple of times, and it's just been an incredible thing. But there's a tree there called a plumeria tree that just smells incredible. And one of those trips, I brought a little cutting home and just had these grandiose dreams of having a plumeria tree in my yard. Long story short, I put it in a pot. It did absolutely nothing for quite a long time. And then all of a sudden, after a couple of years, so that says a lot about persistence. After a couple of years, it started to, put out flowers and leaves and all the things. And I just got so excited because I thought, listen, I'm going to have Hawaii right here at my doorstep. This is amazing.
Yeah.
So this plant, I have babied it. I'm taking it in and out of the house during the winter and all, like, it's pretty, I have a little bit of a problem.
It's involved.
One spring, I'm realizing something's not looking right with it. It's dropping leaves. Instead of growing more, it's growing less. And all of a sudden, it's turning black on the ends. I do what every good person does when their plant is dying. I hit the internet to see what the internet said. Yeah. And it said it had black tip fungus, which apparently is like the death of all plumerias.
It sounds like the death of anything that gets it.
It sounds terrible. It sounds like some horrible disease.
Yeah, like some medieval plague or something like
exactly,
that.
Exactly. The black tip fungus. Anyway, so what the internet said is basically, it's like the end of plumerias, And so this plant that I had loved and babied and truly just felt like a piece of my family, I had to take a knife to it and just cut it. Like really, really, really severely prune it. And, it was just sort of in these moments where I heard the Lord begin to talk to me about the pruning process in my own life and about how there are things in our lives that he purposefully needs to cut out of our lives so that things will, grow back better and stronger.
Yeah.
But that process is oftentimes really severe and sometimes can feel life-threatening. Like it
absolutely.
can feel threatening to our existence and to what we have come to be comfortable with. And so I sliced up that plumeria tree and basically just counted it as a loss and very dramatically did one of these, like, you've been wonderful, goodbye. one of these type things. Well, fast forward a couple of months, and because God is faithful and he loves to set things right, if that thing didn't start growing again and
Oh,
didn't
man.
start growing better and more beautifully than it had ever grown before, and even today, probably 20 something years later, that crazy tree is as strong as ever and
Yeah.
blooming and growing and flourishing. And it just goes to show that there are moments in our lives at crossroads where we do need to be pruned and big things need to be taken out of our lives. Some dead areas in our lives need to be taken out so that the best stuff can grow in us.
Yes.
And I don't know, I just feel like that God really spoke to me very clearly through that crazy tree and through that little example. And I started recognizing, wait, God is right here outside of my doorstep. He's not just on a weekend, on a platform. He's not just, when, I mean, he is in all of those things, and he is with me when I'm reading the word and when I'm, in Bible study or small group or whatever. Yes, he's with me all those times, but he's also just as with me outside my front doorstep with a crazy plumeria tree and speaking to me, and I have access to him even in those kinds of normal moments. So that's kind of a story that I knew that had shifted something.
Yeah.
And I think that it is, he is available to us in everyday normal moments. And
that's so good.
I think it was that kind of story that helped to catalyze an awareness of those things in my life that I had not had before.
Yeah. That's really good. And now, like I said, I'm not a gardener, tree expert, or a forest pathologist by any stretch of the imagination. But I don't think that plumerias are supposed to grow in South Carolina. Is that the case?
Okay, so they will grow in sort of tropical-ish climates, but I mean, like, you really have to baby it to make it believe that it is not in Hawaii.
Okay. That's funny because I've read that one in the book, and it's kind of like, I think you undersold how much work you had to do to make this thing live. Yes. And then so I appreciate that. I think that's awesome. But just out of curiosity, you are the person that is caring for this tree, right? And you get to the point where you have to, like you said, take a knife to it and literally just cut pieces away. How painful was that for you? I mean, I know that for the tree, like it's right. But at the same time, like for you as somebody who's loved and cared for this thing, how hard was that? Oh, it
was so hard, and I don't want to say like so hard compared to other people's struggle, but whatever. In the context of this story, it was really, really, really difficult because I had babied that thing. So much so, my neighbors were rolling their eyes at me about how much I was babying it. And, my husband, although he is wonderful, he was like, babe, like really? Like, we gotta dig this thing up and take it into the house once a year when the weather
drops. We have to bring the outside to the inside?
Yes. I'm like, yes, please put it in a pot and bring, yes. I had babied it. So it was incredibly hard for me. So I felt like it was almost, in some way, in this story, a personal loss as well, because I had invested so much time and energy and effort into hoping this thing would grow and bloom and flourish.
Yeah.
And it's like that, I guess, with things in our own lives where we, we invest so much time and energy and effort into something, like hoping it's going to take off or hoping it's going to be successful or hoping it's going to be a blessing to somebody. And then sometimes you got to take a knife to those things. And is, it's just so hard.
Well, and I think too, like the heart of God, when he's pruning things from our lives, he's not having fun up there.
No.
He's not like, guys, watch this. Look at the things I'm going to take away. No. Like, no, I believe it hurts his heart to have to do that. But at the same time, we know, and I try to tell people this on a regular basis when they're dealing with disappointment or loss or whatever, God's no always leads to a better yes.
Oh, that's good. Yes.
God's no always leads to a better yes. And I think even for you, like, as you're pruning away the damaged and dying parts of this tree, you're like, there's room for something better.
Yeah.
It hurts, but there's room for something better. And I even think about parenting. Like there's times when I have to put my children in a painful experience for the better. And it's usually because they've done something like, my youngest swallowed one of those tiny jingle bells one time and we had to go get it removed,
My word.
Yeah, it was a thankfully it was a small deal, but it felt like a big deal, because it just wasn't. Yeah. And she was scared, and there was, I'm like, okay, I get this is a scary situation, but the alternative is scarier, and you're going to have to, she had to get the IV put in her arm, and like that she's crying, and it's a painful experience. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, I promise that this pain is going to lead to life,
yes.
In a good way. So, I think too, like, the plumeria, I think you said it took years for it to like actually start growing. And I think, I'm super passionate about coffee. I love coffee so much. And, I've learned that too. Like when you plant the seeds, it takes years to even see that those seeds are growing. And so there's a lot of waiting and wondering like what's happening beneath the surface.
Yes.
And man, it's gotta be hard. Like I feel like if I was a coffee farmer, I would be like, well, this is a total loss. Let's plant something different.
Let's do carrots.
Probably right before they break the surface, it's just fascinating. I learned the other day that like when you have a cup of coffee, like those coffee beans are at minimum 4 years old.
What?
Like from the time they've been planted, it's at least 4 years before they can become what gives you life in the mornings.
I am not giving my coffee enough respect.
Right? So, anywho, cool. Like I said, I love that story. There's so much there. There's so much there. I think we could talk about this one plumeria tree for hours. But I want to talk a little bit more too about like just the overarching idea of purpose. And you listed off a ton of things that you have your hands in. And I think that, it's easy for us sometimes to go, this is who I am. This is what I've done. And actually, like there's a trending Instagram video where someone's like, well, this is my entire personality now. And they show something like it can be shoes or coffee or knitting or whatever. And they're like, well, this is who I am. And I think there's almost an epidemic of people finding purpose in what they're doing as opposed to who they are. And so I love that your book speaks to that so clearly. How do you keep your identity and where it belongs, as opposed to saying like, oh, I'm a writer, or I have this thing called the worship department, or on a Sunday I'm this person.
Yes.
Just how can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I think for me, the lessons that God has taught me about that is that it is, my identity is not wrapped up in my position. It's more about what is in my hand at the moment. That is the thing that I'm called to. Sometimes that is being a mom. Sometimes that is being a worship pastor. Sometimes that's being a writer. Sometimes whatever. Yeah. But I can't hang my identity on a title, because titles will change and come and go. Interest even will change and come and go, and that kind of thing. But if I am, all right, first and foremost, I am loved by Jesus. I am a child of God. I know what the Word of God says about me. I know what the Word of God says about who God is in me. That is the thing that we just have to like hang our identity on. And it just can't be wrapped up in a position. That is, the position is kind of where you are, not who you are. It's just That's like good. Where you are in life, right? But it's not who you are. And I would agree with you. I think it is an epidemic of sorts of people getting so wrapped up in a job title or a level of success or that kind of thing, instead of allowing God to use just opportunities that He's put right in front of you to be like, no, this is what I was made for. Like, I'm made for this moment, and I'm going to be made for the next moment too, and it's going to look totally different. Yeah, especially with people that hold a lot of things and carry a lot of, wear different hats. Yeah,
no, that's good. I'm made for the next moment. Like, that's good stuff. I don't know if you just made that up or you've been sitting on it for a while, but
no, I think I probably just made that up.
Well, I'm writing it down. So Tara, in all of this, I love the fact that you kind of we started out at the beginning of like most recently an author. Like,
Sure.
what's been the most surprising thing over the last like couple of weeks, months, years, however long you want to look back? Like, I love that you've kind of found this new part of who you are, and what's been the most surprising thing for you in all of that?
Honestly, that I could do it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I never dreamed that I'd be a writer. I never saw this on my 10-year plan.
Yeah.
I tend to be pretty organized, and I'm not necessarily a goal setter, but I do have like dreams in my heart, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I never realized that this was a dream in my heart. And so I think that has been really surprising to me, is to watch it unfold and to be like, I actually had that was a dream for my life and I didn't even know it.
That's so cool.
And to watch it unfold and to see, man, God just be so faithful in that. It's been truly humbling and really, really, really mind-blowingly surprising.
That's awesome.
And also how fun the process was. I mean, anybody, when you think about writing a book, it kind of makes you want to pull out your eyelashes one by one. So it's like not exactly like the most exciting thing, but overall the process was so fun. And I really, really, really enjoyed it. And I thought that was surprising to me too. I didn't think that I would enjoy the whole process as much as I thought.
That's amazing. No, it's so good. I appreciate that. And so actually my next question was, what's been the most fun? And so maybe if you want to, you said the process was so fun, but what about it made it exciting?
So I'm a lover of information. I love learning new things, figuring things out, trying new things in a safe way.
Yep. Okay.
I don't want to try out new things very publicly.
Right.
I'm very introverted, so I want to try out things sort of privately and check them out, on my own terms. But for me, that was fun. It was fun to learn about ISBN numbers. We were talking about that earlier. It was fun for me to learn about the publishing process and the editing process and to invite people into that process and to be vulnerable and say, I actually have no idea what I'm doing. Can you please help me figure this out? And so I would say that was loads of fun. And then, man, hands down, since the release of the book, the most fun has been watching people discover the book.
Oh, yeah.
And having, just the blessing of getting some people to give me feedback on it and to just say, whether they're just being kind and saying like, I really enjoyed the book, or like I gave it to a friend or whatever, like that has been so fun.
That's awesome.
And we're getting to the point now that we're a couple of months out and it's starting to get to that next level. So it's not like just my mama who is reading my book,
Right.
It's like now it's people that I don't know that are commenting, oh, I got the book from a friend, or I bought it on Amazon or whatever. And that's just been so fun. That's
awesome.
Yeah.
That's so good. Just jumping back, last thing. I love that you said, in what was the most surprising, like that you had this dream that was in you, but you didn't know. I think that people, like, if you're listening, you should explore that a little bit. You know what I mean? Because like I was writing a blog post the other day, and you know this, because as you're trying to figure out writing a book or marketing or whatever, it's like, who is your audience and what is your message? Like, what is the message? And when I started writing on my blog again, I didn't know the answer to that question. And I just started writing whatever was coming out. And so then I started to see it sort of developing into this sort of idea of, I want to help people discover their purpose because everybody deserves to know who they are. And so I was reading back through some of my old stuff, because I've been blogging since 2016, off and on. I've had an interesting on and off again relationship with blogging. And so I started reposting some of my old content on Thursdays, like I do Throwback Thursday. And I found this blog post from 2016 that had those exact words in it. Like,
how precious.
Pretty close to those exact words. Like, it was all about like just purpose through stories. And I'm like, this has been here all along. Yeah. And so I would encourage anybody if you're struggling with some of that stuff, a lot of times if we can look back, then we can find the way forward.
Oh, that's
and
so
good. I just, as you were saying that, it just made me remember that of like, sometimes it's been there all along.
It's been there all along.
Yeah. So,
gosh, that's
so
so
good.
good.
Well,
So
Tara,
good.
I really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. It's been such an awesome conversation. Literally had so much fun today. Could probably go on for hours and hours, but at the same time, man, I think that this has been really good, and I have enjoyed it. So thank you so much for being here. Anything that you would encourage our friends with as we head out?
Man, I just love what you just said. I mean, yes, like, be watching for God in unexpected moments, whether it is looking at a blog post from 2016 and realizing there's a dream in there that's always been there, or a thread, but just be wide awake to God's presence in just really, really simple, normal moments. That would probably be my parting thought for today.
Yeah, love it. I love it. Again, thank you so much, Tara. It's been awesome to be with you.
Good. It's great to
we'll see you soon. You too.
Bye.
So this has truly been one of my favorite conversations. And honestly, I wish I had recorded the conversation we were having before the episode actually started. Tara is a true encourager, and she hit me with some amazing pieces of wisdom that I hope we can share in a future episode. There were a lot of pieces of wisdom in the episode, though, that stood out to me as well. First, she said she's most recently an author. I love that encouragement and how she just let everybody know that it's okay to be where we are, but to also be open to seasons of new things, to new seasons. Tara said, we're made for the moment that we're in, but we're also made for the next one. Because of this mindset, Tara was open to allowing God to add something new to her life. Because of her openness, she discovered this dream that was buried deep within her all along. She didn't grow up wanting to be an author, but she found it extremely life-giving once she started. There are experiences and moments in your life that have been molding and shaping you for something incredible. There's a dream buried within you, and you just have to be willing to dig to discover it. That is something that I'm so passionate about. I love helping people discover those moments in their stories and figure out how to put those dreams into action in their lives. The other thing that stood out was our discussion about the pain of pruning. While we were ultimately discussing a plant, there was a lot of pain in that process. Tara had to cut away things that weren't growing in order to make room for more growth and more life. Our own personal journeys can be the same. There are seasons when God has to prune away the good stuff in our life to make way for the best things. God's no always leads to a better yes. And it may not seem like it in the moment, but it is true. He is faithful. And when he says no, it's so that he can say yes to something even better. Now, if you know me at all, you will know that I hate waiting. I'm a real believer in what Tom Petty says. The waiting is the hardest part. I'm so grateful that Tara understands where I am, and she has literally written the book on how to wait well. So if you're struggling with waiting, if you're in a season where you need God to speak to you, or you think you might be in one of these seasons at some point in your life, just a quick hint, you probably will. I would encourage you to pick up her book. It's super approachable and it's really easy to follow, but it still invites us to dive deep into the wonders of who God is and how much he loves us. So a big shout out and a big thank you to Tara for sharing her story with us today. Thanks for listening to This Awesome Life, a collection of stories that point to purpose. To stay connected with This Awesome Life, check out the show notes. That's where you'll find the This Awesome Life blog and newsletter. You can also find my social media links if you'd like to connect with me there. I'd love to get connected with you. You'll also be able to find links to get connected with Tara and pick up her book. Again, I highly encourage you to do so. If you love This Awesome Life, I would really appreciate it if you take a moment to leave us a review. Don't forget to like and follow this podcast so you never miss an episode. Once again, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on This Awesome Life.